Hello, and welcome to the second podcast of Columbus Local. I am Len D'Amico, and as a small part of the Columbus, Ohio local music community, I've had the great fortune to support, perform, and meet some fabulous musicians and bands over the years. This podcast is intended to provide discussion with some of our great musicians within the Columbus community. Some folks have moved away from Columbus. Others have stayed in Columbus, Ohio. But where the roots are is where we're going to explore. So it's, hopefully going to provide some insights and introduction, some adventures and some story discussion, an opportunity to get to know some of these great people. And this second podcast is no exception to wonderful talent, personality, and just uber skills. Today we have Mr. Matt Cistone. Thank you for joining, Matt.
Thank you for having me, Lynn.
It's awesome to see you as always. And when it comes to you, a lot of people know you as one of the finest on the low end, sir, and also helping other musicians with whether it's live sound reinforcement or lessons. You're giving a lot to the community as well as enjoying yourself. But from your perspective, Matt, how did music start for you?
Well, I was in high school, about senior year. We would leave early, which we weren't allowed to do. But my last couple classes were study hall. So me and a buddy of mine, Gary, I'd take him home. And one day he says, "Hey, you want to come in? I got a bass guitar." And I thought to myself, bass, who cares about the bass, But I still went in because, it's after school and doing our after school thing, what high school kids do. But he handed me the bass and I started playing. And it was like, first time I ever touched one, actually. And I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. I played a Rush song. I mean, not like Getty, of course, but I said, this sounds like Rush. I forgot what the song was. And I fell in love with it, like right then and there. So, I went home and I told my buddy that lived in my neighborhood, hey, I just played a bass today. I thought it was pretty cool. He goes, hey, I got a friend selling a bass. So, and he lived down the street. So I went over there the next day, which was, the very next day, and bought a bass. So, rest is history.
You bought a bass from a friend.
Yeah, who's a big Nashville star now. He plays in Nashville, but he's from Columbus. Very good. Kirk Eberhardt's his name. Very good bassist. He was practicing with his jazz band. He was high school, and I was like, wow, these guys are amazing. And then he took a break and showed me the bass, and it was an old little Univox bass and had a Batman sticker on the headstock, so we call it the Bat Bass.
That's so awesome.
But that was my first bass.
Oh, wow. So, Matt, not to date ourselves, but maybe we won't say the year, but how old were you?
Well, it was a senior year in high school when I bought it, and so I guess that's 1982. I graduated in 82 from Grove City, so then I started playing around with it and bought a second bass not long after that. So I was already on the move to buy a bunch of equipment, and I'm just finding the bass. So that was a cool part. So I bought a nice because I think people told me about the Univox being kind of a cheaper bass, but I thought, hey, that's great to start with. But I bought a real bass, a little nicer Fender Precision. So got that used, and just tried out all kinds of basses after that.
So some of the Grove City musicians back then, was there a local music store, or how did guys procure their instruments?
Grove City didn't really have anything then, and they really haven't had anything much, just smaller stores. But choral music was the big thing in Columbus, Ohio. Ziggy Coyle, and there's others. Name escapes me right now, but I always remember Coyle. Of course, German Village they're still around, Bill Foley. But we went to Coyle a lot. I did, at least I did, and everybody knew about it and talked about Coyle and great service. And They're no longer in business, of course, but that was the big thing back then.
That's pretty interesting. And Coil, I think, had outlets all over, in the suburbs even.
Exactly.
Which Grove City was one in the Columbus area. That's awesome. So, for those that don't know, Matt, primarily musically, is playing fabulous bass with a couple projects currently. I'm going to kind of leapfrog into current day, so we can place you if we don't know who you are. I don't know who that might be, but Matt, what are your current projects?
Well, just got done with a gig last night from a band. A couple buddies of mine were called Zone 3, a three-piece, with Tommy Edwards on the drums. Me and Tommy are teams in a couple bands, and Tommy's a legend drummer. He won't say that himself, but I will say that. And Jake Sadler on guitar, and I tell you, he's been through some bad health problems. And even last week, he was talking about he's got spine problems, which is going to get worse, unfortunately. And he's only in his 40s, so he's fighting it big time. And he's talking about a big long needle was put in his back last week, And here he played last night, which, I would have understood if he would cancel the show, but he did a fantastic job. So that band's a lot of fun. We do some covers kind of our own way. And the big thing right now, and we're working real hard with your lady. Yeah, she's a part of the band. It's called Babylon Brothers, which is Steely Dan tribute, and we're real excited about that project. So we got a show coming up May 19th, so hope to see you there.
Oh, I'm going to be there. I have a table of, I think, 12. Nice. I think some crazy, I think the tables hold 10, but I got extra people, so we thought we'd sit on each other's laps. But I tell you what, I had the good fortune to take Beth to one of the rehearsals recently, and I kind of hung around, and wow, what a treat, Matt! What a group of talented folks that are really pulling that together. It's got to be a really fulfilling moment for you to kind of see it pull together. How are you feeling about Babylon Brothers?
Just wonderful. Paul, who is pretty much the main guy, although he lets me run the show because Paul is that kind of guy. So, and I'm kind of a control freak. So, in a nice way, I hope. But
oh yeah.
I met him. We played a Jesus Christ Superstar show together. We were the musicians and did a little show, and we just kept in touch after that. He played piano, I played bass, of course, and there's a ton of musicians. There was like 17 musicians up there at one time. But I kept in touch with Paul, and I asked him to join a Fleetwood Mac tribute I was in because we needed a keyboard player. And that kind of fell through, due to just business, just nothing bad about it. But I kept in touch with him. When one time our singer couldn't show up for some reason, so Paul showed up, and me and the drummer, it was a different drummer, it wasn't Tommy, he was the drummer for the Fleetwood Mac. Paul started playing the Steely Dan stuff. I was like, wow. And so I started following along, and with the bass parts that I knew at the time, which I learned a lot since. I was like, Paul, why aren't you doing this? You ought to be. He was singing. He sounded like Donald Fagen. I mean,
he is a ringer for Fagen, man. It's insane.
And he's not the kind to go after it. I said, well, I'm going to push it, again, in a nice way. That sounds like I'm mean or something. No, but he needs to be out there and shown. And not only that, Elton John, Billy Joel, all the piano stuff that sing, Paul is a showman. And so I'm just so glad that he wants to do this. And every musician in that band that I gathered up is incredible. I'm just so lucky, to be playing with them.
Oh yeah, well, and it's high quality, and it's looking forward to May 19th, 2023.
May 19th?
I know.
Isn't that their song?
May 19.
Oh, good. There you go.
19, May 19. And so, yeah, that's coming up, and we're just really there's a lot of buzz about it, Matt, and it's exciting.
Yeah.
So then that's not all. So that's a heck of a lot of material that to cover, and it's got to be challenging for everyone. But the players are up for the task and making it happen, obviously. Mm-hmm. But aside, you're involved in other projects. What else do you have going on?
Well, As you know, the Steely Dan is going to be like 3 different, or maybe 4 with the Elton and the Billy Joel. I have a band that most of you know about probably called A Basic Approach, and basic spelled with 2 S's, for play on words. And it's just me on bass, and I have about 3 versions of that. But lately I've been playing, so you got A Basic Approach with Nikki on vocals, Nikki Marie, who is in the current QFM house band winners, Radio City. So I'm lucky to have her. Then I do a version with Charles Valentino. And I think you know Charles, right?
I do. I love Charles.
From Days Gone By.
He's my man crush.
Yeah. And he plays with Lenny in Days Gone By, but he's also in a Soul Sater Horns band. And sometimes I'll do, if I'm lucky, I get both singers. And they harmonize, and it's called A Basic Approach Deluxe. So you got Basic Approach 2 with Charles, and the Basic Approach Deluxe with all 3 of us. And it's just it's a challenge for me because I'm doing a lot of stuff on the bass. But Charles has been helping. He started adding ukulele, and it's a very unique project, but a lot of fun. We play classic rock, all kinds of stuff.
I love those shows. We like to, if we're not gigging, we like to go out when we're not absolutely exhausted from our work weeks.
Yeah.
And we're not gigging. We like to go out, but that's one that we always, whether it's Basic Approach with Nikki or Basic Approach 2 or Basic Approach Deluxe. I mean, each of those has their own, flavor of delight, I will say, Matt, because you guys are just awesome to listen to and spend the evening with. So yeah, I can attest to enjoying those shows. They're great.
Yeah, and that's keeping me pretty busy, but it's everything I want to do.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely. So, you're also involved, Matt, in some other projects, right? When I say that, I know for Days Gone By, we love when you run sound for us, and so tell us a little bit about how you got into sound management, sound reinforcement.
Well, I've been doing it probably since late 90s. I probably because I'm a cheapskate, and I'd be in these bands. I say, I'm going to run sound myself. Why pay these guys? There's some fantastic sound up to this
day.
We
know you're not saying that, right?
There's some, not me. I'm not a fantastic.
No, I think you are. I think you're one of the go-to guys. There's a couple out there.
But you got some great people. But I was thinking, well, I have a 3-piece band or whatever the band I had at the time in the late 90s. And I started putting together a little PA. It's just a hodgepodge, and it still is to this day. I mean, I still have a lot of the same stuff, old-fashioned, because I'm not good with the modern technology. It's all old, fashioned. But I just learned as I did a show and threw it together. So I've been doing it like 22 years. And bands started calling me. So I've done your band many times, Lynn, and it's a joy. I mean, you guys are good for not only, get to run sound for a great band, but they're also close friends and great guys. And again, Charles sings with me in one of the A Basic Approach. So you guys are a blast. And I do other bands too. And so you need a sound man, feel free to call me. If I'm available, I'll be glad to do it.
Absolutely. So, so you said, I'm going to kind of jump back to 1982. You got the Bat bass. You upgraded to a Precision Fender. Obviously inspired by Geddy Lee. Are there other musicians along the way, Matt, that you kind of move toward in regard to inspiration?
Yeah, I guess at that time it was Geddy Lee because I was already listening to him, and then I found out he's playing bass and singing. That's the most important, crazy thing. And then John Paul Jones. But as you evolve and you learn about other musicians, people will tell you, hey, have you heard this guy? And, I'm still finding people that I'm like blown away by. And how did I miss this guy? And it helps today when you got YouTube and people say, hey, check this guy out. Wow, this is amazing. So there's multiple ones, but right at the top of my head, the biggest ones, Stanley Clark, Victor Wooten, amazing players. I get my funk style from them, and I'm nowhere near their style, but those guys, I mean, they're like drum machines and bass players at the same time. They're just so incredible. That's what helped build my timing, I think. So, and who else? Les Claypool, because I got kind of if you've heard some of my original stuff, I got some weird stuff. I write weird. I would have been probably Frank Zappa's child, because I write weird stuff. And Les tests, he does everything bizarre. I love bizarre. It's crazy stuff, and he's singing and doing it. So, and again, some names are escaping me now, but those are some big ones right there that developed my style. Oh, Flea, and that's more funk, Flea. But it's my funk. Mm-hmm. I'm not a good jazz funk, I think, because I play too hard. Well, Flea is like that. Flea like hits hard in funks, and I think that's more my style. I try to go after him when I'm doing some funk stuff, But.
Yeah, no. So we've seen you in some really awesome band projects along the way from there, right? Yeah. So, where did all that take you as a young guy and up through? You don't have to name all the bands, but I know that you've got some kind of famous players that came to town where you were asked to come in to be a part of the backing band, which is kind of a cool story. I think it'd be interesting to understand how that came about and who all those projects were.
Yeah, well, the biggest one, I guess, well, actually two of them, but is Britney Spears, and that was a weird story because it was 2000, and she was only 18. I think she had one hit, and so everybody started hearing of her, and I didn't think much about it. I just thought, she's good. Well, she was supposed to play Polaris, or it was called Polaris back then before they changed to Germain. And I got a call in February that she gets local musicians to play keyboards, bass, maybe just a couple things. She has her own set guitar player, and the drummer that got asked here used to teach music here in Columbus, who's no longer with us, rest in peace, but he called me and said, "Hey, you want to do this show?" I said, "Yeah, I've heard of her, I guess." And, this is February, 4 or 5 months later, she has a second hit and she really blows up. Oops, I did it. I forget what her second hit. She really got bigger, and I was like, wow, I got asked to, but nobody's called me, so I thought, okay, I must have fell through. But I got a call in late August because her show is Labor Day weekend. I think it was the Sunday night at Polaris. They called me late August. "Hey, you still ready to play?" Man, nobody called me. Like, okay, I guess. They faxed me the music, and like I said, a 5-year-old could play it. It was easy stuff. Not cutting her music down, but the bass is fairly simple, so it was real easy. And got to do that show, and it was amazing. I mean, when she never met her because, we keep our own side there at Polaris, and she has her own, and we didn't really think about meeting her, I don't think she cared to meeting us. So, but when she came out, you could have swore God appeared in the building because those young kids were screaming so loud, it sounded like a Beatles concert. I tell you,
oh yeah.
But it was an experience. So that, and Billy Squire was the other one.
That's cool.
I wish it was Billy Joel. He did where he come to town by himself, and he'd play an acoustic set. He'd sit on a chair and with his glasses, and he looks like he's in his living room playing, and he'd tell little stories. And the second set, he'd have local musicians play with him, like the set of his songs, his hits. And I got to be a part of that with a couple other local. And that's what he did every town he went to, and that was neat too. So those are the two big things.
What year was Billy Squire approximately?
Oh gosh, that had to be, because he was big in the Well, I saw he opened for Queen in '83. That was, I tell you, next to Rush. Billy Squire, I keep saying Billy Joel, opened for Queen, was one of the most amazing shows I ever saw. It's Freddie Mercury, come on. So 83, and he was big through the early 90s. I think it was about mid-90s. I don't remember exactly where his music was kind of going away. He didn't have any more albums, but he was still playing. So he would do it more solo like that. And he did a couple years of that. So I got lucky to play one show. I would say about 94,
so
95.
Billy Squier,
yeah.
you played with Billy Squier.
Did get to talk to him. Very nice guy.
Oh, man.
So
that's really cool.
But as far as locally, Sybil all through the 90s to 2000. That was one of the biggest. We played many shows. That's back then. You pay 2-3 nights on a weekend. I had people in the 80s say they played like 5 nights a week. I was like, I don't know, that makes me tired thinking about that. But we did 2 or 3 nights at the same place for like 10, 12 years.
Where'd you guys play?
Town Pub was one of them, which is still going. They haven't had a band since 90. We actually played the last time they had a band in 93. So that's 30 years.
Time flies.
We did Alrosa a couple times. I mean, we opened for New York, who Dave Cawthorn was. That's right. We were talking about Dave Cawthorn earlier, so me and Lynn are looking at each other. Yeah. But Mr. Cawthorn.
Big DC fans.
Yeah. And played, so the Alrosa was a fun, they played there quite a few times. Did a Rush tribute there, too. We played all Rush, which was cool. But a lot of other bars that are defunct now, so there were some cool places back then to play. So that was my 90s. And 2000s was Bad Matitude. That was about 10 years. I mean, it seems like decades I was in a band and that band was really good. So I had some really good musicians I was fortunate to play with there. So tons of others. I know. This would be like a 6-hour interview if name all the bands I played with.
That's awesome. So, at the very beginning, Matt, we talked about, Mr. Matt, right? You're belovedly known as Mr. Matt in town. And so, where did that come from? Why is it on your license plate, on your car? It's a brand that carries, right? So, how did you get the name?
Well, I didn't plan it this way, but I think it was my original band. I had an original band called Stan, STAN, which stood for Skippy the Atomic Nerd. I mean, it was a crazy band. And we had 3 Matts in the band. Matt Sutton, who's currently with Fat Dog for years, great singer. And Matt Venus on guitar, is a monster.
He's awesome.
Me on the bass. And we had a guy named Phil on drums. He wouldn't change his name to Matt, so he was fired. I'm just kidding.
It was Stan.
No, but but we were called Stan. So I think when everybody say Matt and you have 3 people looking, we each got a name. So I think when we called Venus, we just call him by his last name. We wouldn't call him Matt. They called me Mr. Matt, so I would know it's me if somebody's asking. And we'd call Sutton, I think Matty sometimes. We'd say Sutton sometimes too, his last name, but it was Matty. So we each had names, and that spilled over. And again, I didn't plan this, but Bad Matitude I was talking about, which name Matitude, had 3 Matts, and that was Matt Bradley on guitar, another monster. Matt Brennan on drums. So there's 2 other Matts that wasn't even in Stan, and of course I was a bass player. So that band had 3 Matts, and that's why we call her So Bad Matitude. And so Mr. Matt kind of helps that, you say Matt, and then you got 3 people looking. You don't want that. So that's where it came from, and it stuck, I guess.
So you were Mr. Matt?
Mr. Matt,
we all
I guess.
know you and love you as Mr. Matt.
And it stuck, yeah. So that's fun. I could be called meaner names, I guess, so I enjoy that name.
Absolutely. Oh, we all do, man. Yeah. That's so cool. So, we got a lot to look forward to with all that. And, and with all that going on and everything that's going on currently, musically, in producing music, you're also the fine instructor of music. What kind of music do you teach, and how did that come about?
Well, I've been teaching for over 30 years, I guess, and I've got 22 students currently, so from the ages of 11 years old to 74. And it's all different. And some are beginners, so I'll take it where they ever start. You know, I might have an intermediate come in and want to, do some chops, learn some stuff, and I'll do whatever they want because I do it at my house. I don't have to pay for a room at a music store. If they come to my house, I'm a fairly cheap teacher. People say I should charge more, but I'm not in it for that. I want to see people learn. So I'll teach pretty much anything. This guy might come over. I want to learn a System of a Down song or something. Okay, I'll write it out. I'd rather teach chops, but hey, if they're paying me, I'll teach anything they want. So it's usually beginner to intermediate stuff.
Good deal. Yeah, and it's got to be fun because a couple of them have got to kind of come up over the years, right? Do you have any that you've seen actually branch out and play live in bands and performance?
Yeah, there's a couple. I'm trying to think locally, but I do know a couple that actually went on the road. I saw, and I lost touch with him, but he took lessons for about a year, and he was going to Ohio State, so he had to, I think he was early 20s, he's about ready to graduate, so he's probably 23, 20. Kenny, I forget his last name, and then I lost touch with him because, school and where he was from, I think he lived in Lima. Next thing I know, I found him on Facebook, and we chatted a little, and he says, and he did this all nonchalantly, like, oh, my band just got signed, and we're going to, and at first you think, I wonder if he's, pulling my leg. He's not the kind of guy to do that. And they were just getting ready to, I'd be all excited about it. He was doing it like nonchalantly. They were like playing the East Coast at these mid-sized, almost like Newports and stuff, and I was like, I feel good. I feel like I had a little hand in that. And he did thank me, which made me feel good. But,
absolutely.
I mean, he did it himself. He was motivated, and that's what I try to teach, motivation.
Good deal. Absolutely.
So,
any other folks that come to mind?
Oh gosh,
some youngsters maybe.
Well, I got some. Yeah, well, I got one, and he's playing. Where's he go? Is it Madison Plains? I'm trying to think of school, but he's got a band together, and they sound really good. I could see them playing out soon, but their parents want them to finish school first before they do. That's a good thing. I'd rather. But they're tightening up their stuff. And I told them they were doing some covers, and they had an original. I said, that's pretty neat. The guitar player had a really neat hook to it. And I said, you guys ought to concentrate more on that. I know nothing against covers. I play covers all my life, and I think it's great. But if you have a chance, try to do both. Explore and to use some of that stuff you learned from the cover people, that those styles, and melt it into your own stuff. And I heard that. And now they're doing like 6 or 7 songs of their own. I said, man, they want to come to my studio. I got a little studio too, so and record. So it all blows up to big things. I hope.
Oh, for sure.
So I'm proud of him for working in a band, and I didn't teach that. They do that themselves. They need to get along, and but it's
you can't teach that stuff.
Yeah, that gets a little crazy. But I'm excited to record them.
It's the same thing.
Oh, you're not kidding. Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's really awesome. And it's got to be, how do you feel when you see some of these folks move onward and into the craft?
What's I posted on Facebook, and you probably saw it, I think, a few weeks ago. A girl I teach, 13, so 8th grade, I think she's 13 still, played at her school on a Wednesday night, and I took my lessons off that night and went to see her. I sat with her parents, and she was playing bass, but I remember she was texting me through the day, before we went out there, and she was all nervous. She goes, this is me my first time. And I told her the same thing that everybody said, picture everybody out there sitting in their underwear, which, looking at me in my underwear, that'd be scary. But
stop.
No, but she, and she laughed, and I think I put her at ease a little, but she played great. And I'm sitting there. I was about as proud as her parents. And I saw her dad smile. And that's just a good feeling, just watching parents enjoy themselves. And I felt just as proud, and so it's something I helped with a little bit. And, just a good feeling.
Absolutely. Yeah, and good for you. I've always admired your musicianship, but just as much is your giving heart. You give to the community. You give, excuse me, to others in regard to helping them with their craft. I mean, you've given me some pointers with guitar and certain songs. We've had opportunity to actually play at least one time in the last couple of years. Acoustic gigs with some songs that I was struggling with the parts, and there's not any tab out there or any, like, hey Lanny, it's how that goes. And I'm like, oh man, that's so awesome. You showed me that, because sometimes this stuff's a struggle, and for me, I've never been musically trained, and so I've struggled with pieces. So it's always good to hear from the masters, some advice. But have you had any formal music training?
Not really. I think, and going back to the beginning of why I found bass, my cousin Paul from Cleveland, who's now in New York, he works for Sirius Radio and has met some of the greatest people, by the way, Paul McCartney, and working for Sirius. But he was a guitar player in a band called Buff and the Hooters in Cleveland, and just before I found the bass, I'd go watch him play, and they were really big in Cleveland. They played a lot of great shows, and I was proud to see him up there. He's singing and playing guitar. And at first I wanted to play guitar, and I did. My dad bought me an acoustic, and and my buddy Mitch played acoustic too, so we thought we'd play together. Kind of like you talk about you and Dave doing that. And Mitch was just progressing so much faster, and I was like frustrated, and I thought, I just can't get the hang of it. And so thank God I met Gary, who introduced me to his bass, and the rest is history there. But Paul, really, just watching him in a band is the one that really got the ball rolling for me. I should actually mention that before even what Gary showed me his bass. Those two are hand in hand equal as far as setting me where I am today. So I have to thank Paul. And Paul, he's funny. He's now in New York. He says, "Don't blame me for that." That's my cousin.
That's so awesome.
But yeah, that's it. And recording. I record band. I'm currently recording. I don't even know their name. Mike Williams on bass, and they do all original. By the way, I gotta finish mixing their stuff today. Their stuff's amazing. I just love recording band. I don't care if it's covers, if it's a demo or originals, that's even better. And I love to hear originals and their ideas. And that's one thing I'm keeping busy with right now too. So if you need any recording done, give me a call. I'll be glad to help in any way, and I'm cheap.
Absolutely. Yeah. That's really good to know too. So we're probably about ready to wrap up here. Okay. If somebody, first of all, follow Matt Cistone on Facebook, right?
That's mainly
Matt's always posting his shows. He's always posting some humor. He's got
Cats.
fabulous sense of humor. If you like old Andy Griffith episodes, sometimes you'll see a little
favorite
YouTube video post that you got to kind of get a chuckle to, et cetera, et cetera. But he's a good guy to follow on Facebook. Very positive content.
Thank you.
Musically oriented, humor all day long. But so you can get in touch with Matt in regard to obviously the shows that are coming up, the projects that he's got going on, but then also, if you're interested in bass lessons, if you're interested in live sound reinforcement, if you can get on his schedule,
Yeah. That's a little hard, but I try to work anybody in I can, the best I can.
Because Mr. Matt Studios is a busy place.
Yeah. Well, one more, I forgot to mention, just want to say the Babylon Brothers. You can go to our website at www.babylonbrothers.net, because I think com was used, so I use net there. And the basic approach is www.abasicapproach remember, basics with 2 S's.com. So if you like to check out music and see some pictures, you can see my ugly face and get to see Nikki and Charles on there. Go to those websites and you can see where we're playing.
Absolutely, check those out. And from what I've heard on the street, I'm not going to bust it out here because it's not my place, but there are some one-off projects that are coming up. Some that they say that you're going to play bass in. So we're going to get some guest appearances, I think, here and there. And Matt's looking at me like, don't say anything because nothing's official. But, that you'll find out, I think, primarily on Facebook, right? Or those websites that you mentioned.
Yeah. You just have to find the time to make sure we can do it. And just like anything, being as busy as I keep myself, I guess, I'd be glad to help anybody out there. Best of my ability.
Absolutely, and I know that's appreciated by many. You're a great man. You're greatly appreciated, Matt, and it's always a pleasure to hang out with you, but also see your performances because it's mind blowing, your skills musically, and so thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you, Lynn. You're doing a wonderful thing for the music community by doing this, and I heard Lars's. For your first podcast with him, and I'm, overjoyed to be a part of this. So thank you for having us and doing this for the local community.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right.
All right, guys. Have a great day. Bye.